History of Logging in Michigan by Kyle Hildebrand. Why and when did logging come to Michigan? In the earlier 1830s, logging companies came to the Great Lakes area because they had logged the land in the east and there were very little trees left to meet the demands for lumber. Michigan and Wisconsin had thick forests that would supply all the needs for wood to build new communities. From 1840 to 1900, most of the trees taken from Michigan's forests were used to build farms, buildings, and ships. During this time, Michigan was the country's leading producer of lumber. How did they log? Logging was very difficult work. All the work was done by man and horsepower. Axes and long cross-cut saws were the tools that lumberjacks, also known as shanty boys, were used to fell the huge white pines. Hauling logs out of the woods became much easier with the invention of big wheels because the logs were lifted off the ground, so they didn't need to be dragged. Because it was easier to move the logs to water, most of the cutting was done in the winter. Once it was spring, the logs were floated down rivers, across lakes to sawmills. The sawn lumber was loaded into ships and carried to markets. Life as a shanty boy. Shanty boys worked 6 days a week and were paid about $25 a month. A shanty boy's day started before sunup, when they ate a hearty breakfast. When the sun came up, they went out into the woods. They used double-sided axes and long cross-cut saws to cut down the biggest trees. Men, who were called teamsters, loaded the logs onto sleighs that were pulled by horses to the riverbank. Water was sprinkled on the roads to make them icy, so it was easier for the sleighs to slide. At the river, the logs were stacked until the spring melt. In the spring, the logs were pushed into the river, and river hogs floated them to the sawmills, where they were cut into boards and shipped to Chicago and other growing cities. How much forest was cut? We'll probably never know exactly how much lumber was produced in the logging area, but we do have some good estimations. By 1897, over 160 billion board feet was cut from the forests of Michigan. If 160 billion board feet of logs were laid out in a pile 4 feet high and 8 feet wide, it would go around the world 50 times, or to the moon and back about 5 times. Clear cutting. Clear cutting is when people just cut the trees down and don't plant more trees to regrow the forest. The French followed this way of logging that had already ruined the forests of Europe. Clear cutting. At first, the areas that were clear-cut were mostly small, but those small areas added up as the demand for lumber increased. The area left bare after the trees were cut down is called cutover lands. These lands created problems like fires and erosion. When trees were running out in Michigan's lower peninsula, the logging companies decided to start a different method of logging called sustainable logging. Sustainable logging is where after trees are cut down, the stumps are pulled out and the land is cleared to plant 1-year-old trees, so the forest grows back. Usually, a sustainable forest is made up of trees of all ages and kinds of trees. As the trees grow older, they are cut and brought to sawmills to be made into lumber. Cut trees are replaced with seedlings, and the process starts all over with the forest being constantly replaced.